everybody, welcome back to another video. Today's a little bit different, we're in a different Mini. This is my girlfriend's Mini 1 2006 plate. It's currently throwing a check engine light. I'll show you what the code reads at the minute, but it seems to be a faulty camshaft sensor. So I'll show you the code now, show you how to read the code, and then we're going to start by taking the upper driver side engine mount off, so we can put in the new sensor. So first things first, I'll show you how to read the code and then we'll get cracking on taking the engine mount off. Okay, so we've got the OBD reader plugged in to the OBD port, which is under the steering wheel in the Mini. Just got it plugged in. I'm just going to put the car into the first position.
So pretty much once you've got the OBD reader plugged in, you press enter and just let it scan. So at this point it's speaking to all the sensors in the car and the ECU, basically just asking if there are any reported issues or anything like that. And it's going to come back on the scanner and tell you what the problems are, as you'll see now.
Okay, so you can see DTC, press enter. So there's one fault and one pending. So P0340, that's the code for the sensor, the camshaft sensor. The pending one is, this code came up the other day, so I cleared it. We basically just wanted to see whether it was the sensor or whether there's something else at fault. So it's the same code, but if you whack it into Google, it'll tell you that that's the camshaft sensor. So yeah, the car's sort of been struggling to start for a little while. So we sort of knew there was something up, wasn't too sure what it was, and then the other day it just randomly threw a check engine. Now we know it's the camshaft sensor, we've got one on order, just waiting for that to arrive, but in the meantime we're not exactly driving anywhere, so we're just going to get it ready now by taking the engine mount off. First things first, we need to jack up the front of the car on the two jack-in points and put axle stands underneath. Okay, so first things first, we need to take the battery cover off. We need to remove the negative terminal on the battery. So we've got the car up on two axle stands now. We've got the battery disconnected on the negative terminal. So next thing to do is to take the ground strap off here. I think it's a 13mm. Yeah. Okay, if I put your hand underneath it as well, because there's like a wash underneath. So the ground strap's off, there's a bolt and a nut, just put them to one side. Doesn't really matter as long as it's just not attached to that. So the next thing to do is to remove the recirculation valve. So, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to just slide off. So, that's just got two little tabs in it. And the same for this one at the bottom. And that's it, buddy. So just had to use a flathead I couldn't get my finger around the back of this pipe here. Just use a flathead to push the little button in on the side of the hose, and then just obviously use my finger on that side. So that's loose, that now.
So what I've done here is put a piece of wood underneath the engine and move the jack up to support it. It's not pushing the engine up at all, it's literally just sort of holding the weight of it for when we remove the engine mount. And
there's a 19mm bolt up on the top of the engine mount up here.
Yeah.
So we're going to break that off. No good? I'll get the breaker bar out. So we've got the breaker bar on the 19mm. Yeah, got some movement. So loose it and go and get the ratchet. I've got some movement on it now. Oh, actually, Charles, you can take it off with your finger. So that bolts off. That's good. So we need to get this mount off the side of the engine. Okay, so what we've done is obviously we took this bolt off. I've removed the fuel rail line and the recirc line out the way over there. Just moved all these cables out of the way because we need to get access to these two bolts here, and there's two bolts at the back there that we need. So just sort of tidied up the area so that we can get into it. But yeah, so now we're going to try and get these bolts off here. They look like a 19, so let's have a look. Okay, so it wasn't a 19, but it was a 17mm. So I've just loosed the two of them with the breaker bar. I'm just loosening them off now with the ratchet. Now, that one here, so this left bolt, holds this recirculation valve on. So you want to take that out now. I've got this. Probably best not to let this drop. Just use your other hand to hold it, or get somebody else to help you. Okay, so that's the fuel. So that's the fuel recirculation valve on the bolt that holds it in. Just put them to one side. Hi Milo. And then next is the next bolt. So you want to just make sure that you've got the engine sort of stable on the jack. You don't want to be pushing up yet, but yeah, just make sure it's tight. Probably best to go in there. Yeah. Might be just easy to use your hand. Okay, and there's the second engine mount bolt which went there. I'll put a bit more pressure on the jack now to hold the rest of the engine. So put this to one side to get the ones on the back out. Now these bolts back here seem to be a little bit harder to do, but obviously the engine's a bit looser now, so it makes sense. You might want to do these ones first, but might help if you've got something to hold the engine for you. But yeah, they're a little bit more difficult to get off. So after saying that, this second bolt came off relatively easy actually, but there is a bit of the engine does sort of get in the way, so it's a little bit awkward. But after this bolt we should be relatively close. Okay, so Chelsea's just removed the last bolt and the mount seems fairly loose. This is a case of sliding it out. Nice. So there's the engine mount. So just going to put it to one side. Still looks in good condition, and so does this here. Still looks in good nick. These are quite prone to go, but still it seems okay. So I'm going to put this to one side and get the sensor out. So this is the sensor that's at fault over here. I took the cable off early when I was managing it, but this is the sensor cable that comes in from it. So this is your sensor that's being an idiot. So yeah, this is the sensor. There's a bolt there. And I think it's only one bolt. We need to jack the engine up a little bit more to get access to it. So no, we don't want to jack it up too far because obviously it's still connected over that side. But we've got it up far enough now to sort of get a ratchet in there. Okay, so we've got the bolt out, the 10mm bolt out from the side of it, and the sensor just wiggles out. And that there is what causes a check engine light. Now, I'm no expert in camshaft sensors, so I can't tell you why it's broken, but that's what the code reader said. So we're going to replace it. The new part is on the way. I think it was about £17 from some online car shop. And yeah, so I'll be back to replace it soon.
Several days later.
Okay, so it's been a couple of days now since we did all the work on the car. This is a new sensor. It's just got it out to just compare it to the old one, and they look identical. So I'm happy with that. All the numbers that are on it and all the markings are the same. So I'm happy to put that in the car. So let's get it done. Okay, so it's time to put the new sensor back in. So I'm just going to put it in there. It's got a little O-ring on it, so just to give it a bit of a push, make sure it's flush to the engine block. Put this little bolt back in. Thread it in by hand at first. Probably does have a torque value, but considering it's going straight into the head, you won't want it much tighter than this. So once you've got the sensor bolted in, just put the connector back on. Slide it over. And wait till you can't click it anymore. Then push this little red tab in. And that won't move then. So it's time to get the engine mount back on. Alright, okay, so we're going to lower this mount into here with the ground strap with the ground strap connector at the front. You might just have to manipulate the engine a bit to get it to drop over that. Now what I'm going to have to do is just sort of move the engine with my hands so that the bolts line up. So we'll start with, doesn't really matter where you start, we'll start with this bolt in here. So we've got this bolt here in. Now I'm just going to basically have to move the engine about until I can get that bolt to drop in. So I've got that bolt in now, there. I did have to just wiggle the engine a little bit. You just want to make sure that no cables or anything are trapped in between the cylinder head and the mount. So I'm going to go ahead and put all the other bolts on. The back might need quite a bit of wiggling, as you can see, it's quite flexible. We're also going to make sure we put the recirculation valve on here as well. Right, okay, so we've got all 4 engine mount bolts in. And we've also got the 19mm nut in up here. So it's time to plug all the connectors back in. So we'll start with the recirculation valve. So this little valve's got an electrical connector. You just push up till it clicks. Now there's a little connector on top, same deal. And now the last connector I moved out of the way, which is here. Now this should route under this top line, under the coolant hose. Just like that. Move the ground strap out of the way. And then that goes and clips onto there as well. So that. Just make sure it's not on the alternator belt or anything, which this isn't, so that's great. So that's this recirculation valve thingy plugged back in, that's great. So next we're going to put the fuel rail thingy back on, line. So that's just a simple case of pushing it. And when you can't pull it back, you know it's on properly. And then this here, put this back on. I think this accidentally came off while I was moving stuff about. So we're going to push that back in. That seems happy enough. So just double check, have a quick sanity check, make sure everything is plugged back in that you unplugged. Make sure if the cable was routed anywhere, i.e. through one of them, those plug back in. Make sure you've got your sensor plugged in. Just have a quick sanity check. Let's get the torque wrench out and torque these to spec. So all of these engine mount bolts need to be done up to 68 Newton meters. Yeah, it's not really a one-handed job. There we go. And I'm going to do the other 4 bolts as well. Just get them torqued down to 68 Newton meters as well. So I've torqued up the 4 engine mount bolts and the 19mm bolt here, which connects to the rest of the engine mount up to 68 Newton meters. Last thing to do is get the ground strap on, then we'll clear the code. So the ground strap's on. Just going to let the engine off the jack. Let's clear the code. So I've got the car off the jack stands, obviously taking the jack out from underneath the engine. We're inside the car now and we're going to clear the check engine light. So I'm just going through and editing today's video and I've just realised the section of film that should be here now is gone. I don't know where it's gone. It's corrupted, or I just didn't hit record, I don't know. But anyway, what I did in this section was I read the code with the OBD reader and just hit erase codes. That resolved the issue, the check engine light went away, and now the car starts. First turn of the key, no hesitation, no stuttering, nothing. And I've left it a couple of hours and gone back and tested it and it's still perfect. So I'm happy that the issue is resolved. So thanks for watching. Hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. The check engine light's gone, thank God for that. And it was a relatively simple job. So as I said, thank you for watching. Share this video with your friends, anyone that might need it. And yeah, give the video a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.